If you have ever caught yourself thinking, I just don't feel like myself anymore, then hello, welcome. You belong here. We are your people. And if you've also wondered, well, how can a doctor even treat I don't feel like myself? What would I even say? Where would they even start? Then this episode is for you because I am speaking with a doctor who treats just this. Dr. Prudence Hall is a traditional gynecological surgeon who transitioned her career to focus on regenerative and integrative medicine. As founder of the Hall Center in Santa Monica, California, she treats women and men experiencing debilitating symptoms associated with aging. So not only is she going to explain to us what specifically is happening in our bodies during midlife and perimenopause to make us feel less than, she's also going to explain how Stella got her groove back, if you know what I'm saying. Oh, and if you happen to be taking the birth control pill or have an IUD, you'll definitely want to hear her opinions on those. Stick around. This is important stuff. Hello, my friend. You are in the right place. This is where smart and sassy women over 40 come to figure out all things midlife. We talk hormones, careers, relationships, and everything in between. I'm Jessica Long, health coach and fellow midlife woman on this wild ride with you. Stick around for honest conversations with experts, rebels, and wise women rewriting midlife on their own terms. Let's dive in. Before we jump into today's episode, just a quick reminder that I am not a licensed medical care provider and do not provide medical services or advice. The information shared in this podcast is meant to be educational, not prescriptive. Please consult your medical doctor before making any changes to your diet or lifestyle. Also, the opinions of guests on the show do not necessarily reflect the opinions of Jessica or anyone affiliated with Belong Wellness. Dr. Prudence Hall, I am very much looking forward to our conversation today, all about that very common, I don't feel like myself symptom of perimenopause that I hear myself and other women like me saying all the time. We're going to talk about what it really means and what you can do when you're feeling this way. So thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing a lot of your wisdom with us today.
My pleasure, Jessica. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. So let's just get right into it. This I don't feel like myself is so common. I've definitely been there myself, and I feel like it's kind of cyclical. It comes and goes. So sometimes I feel that way, and then I kind of get back on track, and then it happens again. And that's just kind of the state of perimenopause, I guess, with these fluctuating hormones. But it's so hard to put our finger on exactly why we're feeling that way. And I think for that reason, a lot of women don't seek help because they, first of all, they don't know who to go to. And second of all, if they booked an appointment, let's say with their doctor, what are they going to say? Like, I just don't feel like myself, like what is the doctor supposed to do with that? But this is exactly what you do. So I'm excited to have you here to just help demystify this a little bit for us. So I'd love to just ask first off, what is this symptom? What does this mean? Like, are you able to uncover some root causes for us and tell us what's happening that's making us feel this way?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm laughing because I hear this so frequently that women will come and say, oh, Prudence, I'm just not feeling myself. And what you said about perimenopause, one day or 1 week or 1 month, you're feeling great. And then the next weekday or month, you just feel horrible. And so it's almost like we talk ourselves out of thinking that something is actually happening. We create excuses for that. But really the underlying causes, as you already said, are fluctuating hormones. And this starts any place from 35, 37, maybe as late as 42, 43, when it really gets very intense. But especially in these early stages, we feel more down. We're more volatile. We're gaining 5, 10 pounds. Sleep is interrupted. The brain is a little bit foggy. We don't feel like ourselves. Why am I angry at this? And that kind of stuff happens. It happened to me too. It was really shocking when I once had a tyrant in a store. I'm so calm and even. It's just like, oh my God, Prudence, what just happened? You're not yourself. It's like, oh, you're in perimenopause, which I was at, I think it was 38. So what happens in perimenopause is that, first of all, the cycles become just a little closer together. So that's one hint that you're in perimenopause. Rather than 30 days, 31 days, 28 days, you're 27, 26 days, something like that. And then the second thing that happens, it's more PMS. So more bloating, more down, more irritability, more hunger. And that PMS that used to be maybe a day or maybe 2 can become 7 days and worse. So that's another hint to know I'm in perimenopause or something else is happening with my hormones. Pay attention to those symptoms that you're having. Journal it And it's going to be interesting to see, is it only happening before your period? That's a PMS syndrome kind of a situation due to low estrogen. Or is it maybe just happening randomly or from month to month? Like one month you feel great. That month means that you probably ovulated and you probably hit good estrogen levels. So when I approach this as having done this really for 4 decades, everyone comes to me with their labs already done. And I look at the labs and I'll look at their estradiol level, which is your main estrogen. We all share the same one, and it's just a little bit lower than it should be. Let's say it's day 21. It should be 175 to 200. Theirs is 150 or 145.
And when you say should be, you mean in your reproductive years, that's what it was, right?
Well, we're reproductive in perimenopause.
True.
So I'm talking about an ideal youthful state. So when
Okay.
a woman, let's say she's 50. Well, how are you feeling at 30? Are you feeling the same? Because some women will say, well, I just feel a little bit off. I'm not really sure what's going on, but I just don't feel really right. And it's like, well, let's not compare yourself to 2 months ago. Let's compare yourself to 30. Oh, I'm really off. Oh, I don't have that sex drive. I don't have that energy. I'm more tired, much more. So it's helpful to go back a little bit before you first recognize the symptoms. And when the estrogen is low, I also find very frequently lower progesterone in that part of the cycle. This would be day 21 of a menstrual cycle. And let's say the woman is having pretty regular cycles, although a little bit shorter, perhaps. And then I look at the testosterone. And especially if women say that they don't have the strength that they had. Yeah, I'm passing the bottles to my mate to open, or they just have lost muscle mass. That's a classic symptom of low testosterone. And so now they have estrogen that's low, testosterone that's low, progesterone that's low, and they're 37 or 38, let's say. And then I look at their thyroid, and thyroid will decrease after a second child, even after a first child, and as we age. So I just go through all of these different things. And each time I'm saying, this is why you're irritable. This is why you're tired. This is why you have brain fog. This is why you don't want to make love with a partner that you love. So it's pretty easy as long as you measure the levels. You have to measure the levels or else you have no idea what the different parts of those symptoms, how do those symptoms relate to actual things going on in your body.
Okay. So running labs to measure versus just treating based on symptoms. Because I know what you hear some doctors saying that, where they're saying, labs can fluctuate during this time. So really, if you do blood work, it's just one snapshot in time, and that doesn't really tell me anything. So I really want to treat the symptoms that you're reporting to me. What do you say to doctors who treat that way?
How are you going to tell why the woman is depressed? Is it from low thyroid, low estrogen, low testosterone, low adrenal hormones, or is it from something outside in relationship? So I just do not endorse that whatsoever. I do labs every time. And sometimes it's a 24-hour urine. Sometimes it's the Dutch test. But I start with blood level. Saliva can also be helpful. I use all kinds of methods. But that's a good way to start. You must measure the hormones. So if your doctor says you're too young, and let's say you're 30, I take care of women who are 30 and in deep perimenopause, even in menopause, all the time. So menopause has decreased from, I would say, over the last 4 decades, about 10 years earlier than it was before. And the same thing happens with perimenopause.
And with menstruation beginning, right? Is that why perimenopause is happening so much earlier? Because as girls are starting to menstruate earlier? I mean, I guess that wasn't true for our generation, though. So why is perimenopause happening earlier, you think?
I think it has to do with lifestyle. So we're sleeping less. So many women say, yeah, I sleep 6 to 7 hours. It's like, no, 8 to 9 hours, at least 7 plus. So lack of sleep, increased stress that is, I think it's 100 times more than our grandparents had. High sugar in the diet. And I measure the hemoglobin A1C and other labs to look and see how is that metabolic insulin sugar thing doing. Because when that rises, our metabolism is very responsible for a healthy immune system. So I'm always asking, do you get sick a lot? Can you fight off the flu easily? What happened at COVID? And those two fields are actually one field now in terms of immunometabolism, rather just like immunology and our A1C insulin levels. So all of these things are underscoring it. And very possibly early menses. We have 450,000 eggs and we ovulate. I mean, we have many eggs that'll come up each cycle, each month. And, but health of the ovary is very, very important.
As I'm learning. I'm learning as my healthy ovaries are declining. That's when I'm learning it. So I'm glad we're talking about this now. So hopefully we're catching some people when they're younger. But if you have a woman who comes in and says, I'm not feeling like myself, and you check her labs and they all seem quote unquote normal, then what happens? How do you help her?
I am so glad you're asking that question, Jessica, because this happens all the time where doctors will do a couple of labs and they say, well, you're not in menopause. Everything's okay. And it's just like, but no, you're not okay. It's a subtle field in the beginning of perimenopause. So maybe the estrogen is 12 points lower than ideal. And maybe the FSH. The FSH is something that we need to look at as gynecologists and healthcare practitioners, because that is a longer term marker for how much estrogen is your body receiving, is your brain responding to. The FSH sends out signals saying, give me more estrogen, help, I need more estrogen. And then the ovary releases more estrogen. So that can be very subtle. That could be an FSH of 6. It could be an estradiol that's 15 points lower, but we feel that. We're not just on and off switch. We deal in subtleties, especially as women. So if women have symptoms, and even if their labs were perfectly normal, I'm looking at all the rest of the hormones too. Well, how are their adrenals? Are they burned out? Are they deficient? How much stress do you have? What's going on in your life? And what do you want? What is your goal? And a lot of times women just say, I just want to feel like myself. So I treat them with estrogen, and I treat them very low dose, and I give it a try. And I say, would you like to try that? I think this is what's going on. And if they have little babes at home, little kids at home, I usually use the patch, which is bioidentical. Sometimes I use the cream. I have 5 different methods to prescribe estrogen. And the estrogen is the same. It's bioidentical to women, exactly the same hormone as women make. And 9 times out of 10, maybe 10 times out of 10, women say, oh, I feel so much better. Oh, those symptoms, they just are gone. Well, now, are they really gone? Did you keep a little journal of when you're feeling down? And, well, I guess I still have some PMS. Okay, use this patch during PMS and the rest of the other ones, or use 1.5 patches. Perfectly fine to cut the patch into, even though pharmacists say it's not. And use 1.5 during PMS and the rest of the time. And you're getting better sleep, yes. How's your sexuality? Because I put them on testosterone if it's low. Oh, so much better. I thought I was going to get divorced because I've been ignoring and so mean to my husband or partner. So it's so much fun to see women come back to their radiance.
So, okay, first of all, this is so fascinating. I've never heard about cutting a patch in half. So it's making me realize we have more options than we even realize, even when it comes to the FDA approved versions that people are getting. So that's an interesting tip. Is hormone therapy, bioidentical hormones, a place that you start when someone comes to you saying they don't feel like themselves? Or do you start with nutrition and lifestyle? Do you try to do it all together? What's your approach?
So frequently lifestyle will become degraded during perimenopause due to fatigue, due to uncontrollable hunger, craving sugar like crazy, because that's a symptom of low estrogen, also stress in our life. So if I just try to change the diet and stress, we'll make some progress, but it's not like the wow that you get when you do more than lifestyle. So lifestyle is critical, and the diet is anti-inflammatory and low in sugar. We can talk about that later, but it's a really healthy diet. And once we have balanced hormones that aren't flipping around and that aren't decreased, then we can start really working on weight loss or ideal weight or muscle building or actually exercising. Too many women come to me and say, I just am too tired. And that's a classic sign of perimenopause. So adding the estrogen, which is actually the underlying root core cause of our symptoms, is very helpful.
I think that's so true. And it's reminding me of a parallel I've heard with GLP-1s, where if someone's extremely overweight, starting them with very strenuous physical workouts isn't even necessarily the safest thing to do. Like, let's actually give them the boost where they lose a little weight. It's safer for them to work out and they feel successful and they feel motivated. And it's kind of the same here where it's really hard to optimize your diet when you're so tired you can barely get out of bed. And I've been there. The first call I finally made due to perimenopause symptoms, I was in bed at 10 a.m. sobbing and was like, I just can't live like this anymore. I'm a very active person. I've taught fitness for almost 18 years, and I would take my kids to school, come back and get in bed and cry because I couldn't do anything. So I can understand that where you're not motivated. And even if you really want to work out, all I wanted to do was work out and feel good, and I couldn't do it. For that person, they do need the extra boost. They need more assistance. They need that win to then get them motivated to make the other choices.
Oh, that's absolutely right. And there's nothing like exercise to really boost a lot of our neurotransmitters. So they stay elevated and happy and yeah, dopamine. I think that,
There's something to be said for dopamine. I
yeah,
do want to go back to something you said earlier, which was looking at someone's profile, like when they were 30. How did you feel when you're 30? And you're asking this of a 50-year-old.
or 40 or
Or
40.
40. Is it a realistic goal of a 40 or a 50-year-old to feel like they felt when they were 30? And is that what we're trying to do with hormone therapy? Or are we trying to alleviate symptoms and get longevity benefits and feel like a 48-year-old?
Look, they're not mutually exclusive, right? If you want to live a long time, how you handle your perimenopause and menopause will define the next 40 or 50 years. And that's when diseases arise. It decreases almost every disease. Heart disease, dementia, Parkinson's, diabetes, autoimmunity. I mean, you name it, and it's probably all kinds of cancers. It's probably going to decrease it significantly.
When you say it's going to decrease it, you're talking about hormone therapy?
Managing your hormones correctly.
Managing your hormones. Okay.
Hormone therapy correctly will help that. So I have women tell me all the time, it's 60 even, it's 70. I have never felt this well in my life. And yeah, I mean, you talk about extinguishing symptoms and creating a robust and beautifully curated life or creative life for yourself. You need to have your hormones because that's your operating system. And so I don't think it's at all unreasonable for a 40-year-old to feel like she's 30. Now, I don't balance hormones to 30. I balance them a little bit higher than 35. And it depends. Did her LDL and the subparticles of the LDL, ApoB and LP(a) that are responsible for cardiovascular disease, very, very much increases cardiovascular disease, are those high? Is her sugar level 5.7, 5.8? That's the 4-month marker for sugar damage. Did she just develop hypertension? 85% of hypertension is due to high sugar. High sugar is due to perimenopause and menopause. Those are root core causes. So we can do it all, Jessica. We can get women feeling beautifully radiant.
Well, this is great news for those of us who are willing to take hormones and are able to. What about someone who's listening saying, hormones aren't right for me, or I can't because of a family history or a health issue? How do you help her?
Well, I like to explore that. So what information do you have about why it's not right for you? Oh, my mother or my sister had breast cancer. So, well, let's check and see if you're at high risk for breast cancer. Estrogen does not increase breast cancer. If somebody has had breast cancer, it's most oncologists and most of standard medicine is going to say you can never take estrogen. But that tide is turning. Really, when I started this 4 decades ago, I mean, I was duking it out down there saying, look, the data is there. And then it tipped about 7 years ago, and everybody's saying, "Oh yeah, it decreases diseases. It's wonderful for your bones and your brain," and I mean on and on. So this thing about estrogen in breast cancer is also going to tip. So what I do with women who want to take estrogen and have had breast cancer is I send them to several of my wonderful oncologists who look at all the different markers, and then they decide, can she take estrogen or not? And I only use bioidentical estrogen, I don't use the carcinogen medroxyprogesterone, which is Provera. And you know about that study in 2001?
Tell us.
Well, there was a study looking at Premarin, pregnant mare's urine, and it looked at a lot of women. And unfortunately, the women who were on Premarin plus Provera had higher breast cancer. And they didn't have any decrease in cardiovascular disease, no decrease in dementia, some of the things that we now have been proven to be true with bioidentical hormones. And so it was like a rocket going around the world. Hormones are dangerous. Hormones are dangerous. And indeed, when women in the United States came off of Premarin and Provera, breast cancer incidences decreased. Now, going fast forward, they looked in 2021, that's 20 years later, at women only on Premarin. Not a good hormone. It's, inflammatory. But those women on Premarin alone had decreased breast cancer incidences. So even a bad hormone like Premarin, non-bioidentical, was helpful in decreasing breast cancer. So I listened to the oncologist. And more, they're saying, oh, yeah, she can go on some estrogen, especially if it's transdermal. I mainly use transdermal. Very rare that I'm doing trokes or drops with estrogen. And so I know that people are looking at this a lot. There's studies that are ongoing now with breast cancer and what stage, how early, how late is it all right for women to take estrogen. Estrogen Matters is a wonderful book written by Avram Blooming. He's from my alma mater, Keck School of Medicine. And he says, my daughter had breast cancer and she's in menopause or perimenopause. I wouldn't hesitate to tell her it's okay. Now, that's one oncologist opinion, but more and more that is tipping. And my greatest wishes is that this tips in the same way that testosterone has tipped for men.
Yeah. So, of course, you're referring to the WHI study that we're still unraveling. And I think to just diminish the fear that created is going to take another 20 years, perhaps. Hopefully not. There's so much conversation about it now and so many more women trying hormones. But fear that instilled was very real and very unfortunate. And we're just having to deal with that. And hopefully having conversations like this and people reading books and getting educated themselves will help unravel some of that.
And I haven't used Provera, medroxyprogesterone, in almost 4 decades. I was out of my residency for a couple of years when it's just like, whoa, okay, we now have bioidentical natural progesterone.
I think you're making such an important distinction that the WHI study was not using bioidentical hormones. They were using synthetic estrogen, synthetic progestin. Bioidentical is estrogen, progesterone, estradiol, progesterone. That distinction gets lost so much, and I think it's critical for people to understand. Is there any time when using synthetic hormones like those is still the right choice for someone?
No, nor is a birth control pill correct for perimenopause.
Tell us more about that, because I specifically know some people who are taking it in perimenopause.
So I've measured so many hundreds, it's now in the thousands of women who are on the birth control pill. And when I look at their levels, their estradiol level tends to be 15, 20. That's extremely low when you think of 150 to 200 is more ideal. And their testosterone is suppressed. So this is one reason why they have such a low sex drive. A lot of young women say, gee, something's really wrong with me because I'm not attracted to anyone. And it's just like, yeah, your testosterone level is 6. I wouldn't be either. So it is not a good way to deal with perimenopause. We are estrogen deficient in perimenopause. And the birth control pill gives us a non-bioidentical estrogen. And when I measure our own estrogen levels, they're so low. Those women look menopausal to me, except their follicle stimulating hormone indicates that they have eggs left. So I say, look, you're fertile, but you're grumpy and tired and sexless and gaining 10 pounds, 20 pounds, and you feel horrible and you're raging because your estradiol level is so low. And that has put so much stress on your adrenals, not to have healthy hormones, but also your adrenals are crashed. So I just do not support at all using the birth control pill for perimenopause.
And it's often given to women who are having high estrogen symptoms or their ratio of estrogen to progesterone is off. Is that fair to say? And so that's why they're given the birth control pill to suppress their own estrogen?
No. Because if anyone has the skill and the ability to know what high estrogen or estrogen dominance actually is compared to progesterone, they're pretty good in the field, and they're not going to prescribe the pill. I'm quite sure.
So why is it being prescribed?
Ignorance. Look, I'm not against birth control. I want women to absolutely have their reproductive
Choice.
great. I was going to use the word freedom, but choice is a much better word. And I'm grateful to birth control pills because when I was at USC in my gynecology residency and obstetrics residency, the birth control pill company supported us. I'm a gynecologist because of them. So I'm grateful to new technology. And the technology that has actually come out that's life-saving has come from high-tech pharmaceutical companies. It's not really coming from universities as much. So I'm not against the birth control pill, but I kind of am.
But you are for a perimenopausal woman, it sounds like.
Probably for perimenopausal. And you can also use a Paragard. There's nothing in a Paragard. And I don't know,
Non-hormonal
it's not
IUD.
IUD. Yeah. And you can also use some of the new apps, which you can actually track your body temperature and know when you're ovulating and kind of, I mean, that's a little more dicey.
Yeah, some of us who are at this stage do not want a baby. But what about IUDs? Do you feel like they're a good solution for perimenopausal women?
Well, no, no. So the Mirena and Skyla and those IUDs have a synthetic progesterone in it, and it's not very helpful in terms of treating those symptoms. In fact, when women go on those IUDs and they're like 38, many times they say, "Oh, I'm just falling apart." I'm measuring their levels, and it suppresses the estradiol some. Enough so that women who might not have been in perimenopause are in perimenopause. Now, I don't see that as much in younger women, like 16, 17, 20. But if you start to get up there just a little bit in terms of age, I do see that. Not nearly as much as the birth control pill.
I think that's such a critical point because I've heard that the hormonal IUDs can suppress estrogen, but then I've also heard no, they don't. You still ovulate, you're fine. So like which is it?
I don't know. But that's why I measure levels. I want to see, are you ovulating? Did it suppress it? Usually it doesn't.
And so this is a synthetic progestin though. So is this an appropriate use of a synthetic hormone for a perimenopausal woman?
Well, if there are any drug companies out there thinking, please create an IUD with bioidentical natural progesterone, um, it's contained a lot in the uterus. So because it's released into the uterus takes that up. And to date, we don't have any data that is causing increased endometrial cancer. If anything, it decreases endometrial cancer. That's quite sure when you have an IUD. There's less proliferation and growth of the endometrium. And it's all the time. You know, you get that stimulation all the time with the IUD to the uterus that keeps it thin. So
Mhm.
progestins are anti-estrogen. They kind of blunt estrogen's effect. And I measure to see not everybody on an IUD on the Mirena has decreased estradiol levels, but it's pretty remarkable that so many women do have decreased estrogen levels.
So if you're on an IUD, it's still worthwhile to have labs done to understand where you stand.
Always. Because let's say you're depressed because your thyroid is subtly low. We should talk about thyroid. It's so important. Or maybe your adrenals are low, or maybe your sugar is high and all your cells are clogged up with sugar. So the cells aren't absorbing well and aren't responding well to chemical messengers.
So let's talk about thyroid. What do perimenopausal women need to know about their thyroid?
So the thyroid controls our metabolism. It's very important along with the estrogen too and other factors, but it's really directly giving us energy and vitality. So first of all, symptoms. You always want to say what symptoms you have. Write them down. You can put it into Perplexity and chat and see what they come up with. But usually the symptoms of low thyroid are fatigue, feeling down, sometimes feeling quite depressed, gaining weight, dry hair, hair loss, breakage, nails that are not strong, constipation. Everything can be dry. The eyes can be dry. The vagina can be dry, even though mainly dry vaginas are due to low estrogen. Everything feels drier with low thyroid. So if you have some of those symptoms, then you want to go to your doctor and say, I'd like to have my thyroid checked. Now, what do you check? The thyroid stimulating hormone, that's the TSH, the free thyroid 3. So that is 6 times more potent than thyroid 4. So you really want to check the free T3 and T4. I also check reverse T3. I also check antibodies to make sure that that person doesn't have Hashimoto's or an autoimmune condition of the thyroid. And the key takeaway here, if doctors are listening, is you really want that T3 to be 3.1. And according to Dale Bredesen, who's one of the brilliant Alzheimer's disease researchers in the world, thank God he's walking this planet here, you want it at least 3.2. And so when I look at a TSH that looks pretty normal and the T3 is 2.4, I know that they have low thyroid and they have all these symptoms. And I know they have a lot of problems with their thyroid. So we address that.
So much overlap between hypothyroid symptoms and perimenopause symptoms that it's worth when you're going to your doctor to not just have your sex hormones checked, but make sure that they're checking your thyroid hormones as well, and that they understand how to read and analyze the results too, right?
I didn't know how to analyze the results. I really didn't. When I started this, it was just sort of like, thyroid, well, it's not really my field. And it's like, yeah, because the thyroid being due to the baby in utero taking our iodine away from us, so many women have postpartum depression due to low iodine. And so iodine is a wonderful theory. You want to help fix your thyroid? 3 Brazil nuts a day and some iodine. That's really going to help maintain healthy thyroid function.
Well, that seems doable. Okay. You're reminding me to reorder my Brazil nuts. I ran out of those. All right. We need to wrap up, even though I could talk to you about this forever. Is there any question regarding perimenopause that you hear a lot come up in your practice that I didn't ask that you think would be helpful to discuss?
Well, you're not going crazy. A lot of women
Thank you.
going crazy. And I'm so worried that I'm losing my mind. My grandmother had Alzheimer's disease, and I think I'm losing my mind. So most likely you are not crazy because you came in and you spoke very intelligently about your symptoms, and you have also come to fix it and to investigate it. So you're not crazy. So I hear that a lot, Jessica. And I also hear a lot of women feeling that discouraged because they said, well, my gynecologist said it's probably normal. It's normal to feel more tired. It's normal to feel weaker in terms of muscles. And so I would say, if you do not get answers, try another person. It's discouraging to me as a gynecologist that so few gynecologists actually handle this well. So you might want to see a functional medicine doctor. We're very skilled at that. I mean, functional medicine, it's just looking at the core root causes, and functional medicine doctors know how important hormones are. You might want to try a naturopathic doctor and see what their thoughts are, because they are very good many times with these very subtle conditions. Whereas if the FSH has not budged and it's still, 5, 6, 7, gynecologists will say you're normal. They might not even look at any other lab. So just get some more help, and you're not crazy. Write down your symptoms so you can be very clear, and you can say these are all perimenopausal symptoms. I'm quite sure I'm in perimenopause, even if you aren't quite sure. You can say that. That makes them perk up, and I'd really like some treatment for that. No, not the birth control pill.
Okay.
Perimenopause is a tough time.
It's a tough time, but be an advocate, get the right team behind you, track your symptoms, ask the right questions. And if you're not getting the answer that you like, find someone else. I think that's actually a good point. We hear that a lot, but what I've found to be true is there's a barrier almost to getting started, right? Because going back to the beginning of our conversation, we're not feeling like ourselves. We don't feel like that's an adequate thing to bring to a doctor, so we don't go. And then there's just this barrier to feeling better. But once you have that team built around you, then anytime you're not feeling like yourself or you go through that fluctuation again, you know exactly who to call and you can remedy it right away. So that's been my experiences. I suffered for a while until I finally reached out to a local naturopath who came recommended by a friend. I found a new gynecologist who's much better versed in perimenopause and menopause. And now I've been feeling so much better, and I know who to call if I need to make some adjustments to the plan. So thank you for reinforcing that for us. And where can everyone find you and connect with you and learn more about what you do?
Well, I'm at thehallcenter.com, and my book, Radiant Again and Forever, is, I give it away for free. I wrote it. Suzanne Summers told me, you got to write this book, Prudence. And I was kind of reluctant. I was so busy, and she just hounded me. And she said, I'll write the foreword. Will you write the book now? It's like, I'd write it even without a foreword. She said, I'm writing it. So you just put your email in and it downloads, and it's her idea. She said, each chapter is a different person in your consult room. So perimenopause, menopause, low thyroid, low adrenals, sexual problems, PMS, and then what happens after your hormones are balanced. So the last 2 chapters are about extraordinary, and actually it happens all the time where women refine themselves and they start doing what they really love and just living a life that they have created because they have their mind, their body, their heart, or their emotions all together. And it's beautiful. That's why I'm still here, Jessica, because women's potentials, I mean, we're the light of the world and we want to shine.
Oh, I love that. Thank you. And I'm going to go get it just so I can read those last 2 chapters, get some optimism going. Thanks so much for coming on the show. It's been so nice to talk to you.
Thank you, Jessica. Keep going, girl.
Well, that one was packed with info. It's impossible to remember it all, especially when brain fog is a thing. So listen again if you want to nail down some of the nuggets that Dr. Hall dropped. In the meantime, here are 3 key takeaways. 1, if you don't feel like yourself and can't really put your finger on why, you're not crazy. This is a very common feeling in perimenopause due to declining and fluctuating hormones, creating environments your body has never seen before. Track these symptoms, and Dr. Hall says measure, don't guess. Ask your doctor to run labs and include estradiol, progesterone, testosterone, FSH, and thyroid hormones. And don't be afraid to ask up front if your doctor feels qualified to analyze these results for a perimenopausal woman. Number 2, bioidentical hormones can restore capacity and get you feeling better enough to be motivated to make diet and lifestyle changes that can take you to the next level. Number 3, if you're on the pill or a hormonal IUD and you still don't feel like yourself, ask to have labs drawn and discuss your options with your doctor. I'll link to Dr. Hall's free book in the show notes, so be sure to grab a copy. And if you have any friends who are on the perimenopause struggle bus with us, please send them this episode to spread information and hope. I'll see you next week, my friend.